Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder. And today, I wanted to talk about how you can actually get more people to come out and fight in your alliances, right? How do we get more players in our alliances, more players in our kingdom to actually come out and fight? And that can be anything from participating in PvE events, such as something like a caravan. It could be doing a behemoth raid, or it can be on the PvP side, where a pass opened, maybe you're pushing a choke point across a bridge, up or down a ramp, and you're fighting it out in KvK against other alliances. And so today, we're going to talk about the good, and then kind of either work in or at the end talk about kind of the don'ts, right? The do's and don'ts, if you will, and how to kind of get these done. So the first thing for me is that if I'm running an alliance, and let's just talk about the PvE side first, right? So I want people to try to show up for events. How am I going to get that done? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write a mail up that says the events that are coming up, right? So I'll probably put like a weekly schedule. So like when the new schedule comes out for the week, I'll put out, hey, here's all the events. These are the ones where we can have multiple participation, and we'll be sending an email out later at a later time to go over more of those details, right? So you're kind of giving everyone like an outline of, hey, here's all the events they can do for the week, maybe some tips and tricks, right? How to get the most out of it. And then if there's any kind of group or big events where we can have more than just, an individual doing them within the alliance, right? Then we'll give a little bit of information about that. And then when we do an event-specific mail, that would be written up in a way where it explains the event. It talks about how to get the most out of the event, any tips and tricks on it, any process information that people need to know. And then next, it would be, we need to try and figure out a time that we want to set up to do with as many people as we can, right? Or as many people as you could argue the event would allow. So at that point, then you would say, then what you would do is you would reach out to, and you could just like one of two ways. You can either say, hey, if you're interested in participating in the event, right, please let us know. Or what you could say is you would go and you'd reach out to everyone in the alliance. And it depends if you're going to do this in-game or if you're going to do it on Discord. If you have everyone in your alliance on Discord, right, then this is kind of like the two parts you can do this on. So if you have everyone on Discord, you can do an announcement and you can say, who's available on this day at a couple of these times. Or if you want to figure out the times first, like let's say you could do the event at any time during the day, then you would say, okay, you reach out to everyone and you ask them and you say, hey, what's your time availability for this upcoming date? Once you get that, then you can figure out, okay, we have 50 people that can be on average around this time. Then we have a few other people that can be on close to it. So maybe we have them as reserves. And then you go ahead and you pick it from there, right? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. The other way is that let's say if you don't have enough people that can be on, from there, right, then the next thing you would do is you would message players individually, like in-game, right, and then you would ask them that. Now, you could kind of do the same thing. Like I said, I was kind of referring more to the Discord side, but you can apply the same process on in-game or on Discord if you have everyone there. And it's really just a matter of trying to figure that out first, and then the pool of people that you can actually pull from, no pun intended. This can be applied for behemoth raids. This can even be applied if you're talking about PvP and fighting it out in KvK. If you're trying to figure out who's going to be on, who's going to be available, looking at doing those kind of time availability audits or temperature gauges can be really important, especially if you're going to be doing a lot of fighting over the next 5 days. You can reach out and ask people, hey, what do you think your availability is going to be like over these next 5 days? That can really allow for you to plan accordingly. Now, bear in mind, most alliances typically do not do this. It's just a matter of, hey, we're going to fight now. We just need to have as many people on as possible. But if you know who's going to be on average, right? Again, people can pop up at any point in time if something changes in their schedule. But really what we're talking about is trying to get a heads-up notice, right, notice in advance. And then we talk about the next thing, which is how do you talk to people? What are your soft skills as a leader, as an officer, as a member of that alliance? Because that also weighs heavy into whether or not you're going to see an increase or a decrease in overall engagement, in social interaction, and in participation overall between your alliance members. Do you think players are going to want to show up if you have other members in their alliance that are calling them out for not winning a fight or for not doing a raid or for not being able to get enough people online. No, all that's going to do is just further remove people away from wanting to participate and just continue to demotivate them or start to demotivate them. And then that could potentially snowball and maybe they decide to leave the alliance or, leave the kingdom or worse, quit the game. And that could even just cause them just to kind of lower their activity in general and then just kind of worsen the situation. I think it also comes down from players. Some players just needing to have a realistic expectation that, the likelihood of you getting 100% activity, if you have 175 people in your alliance and getting 175 over 175 players online to all participate is very kind of few and far between. And again, I just think it's really hard to do that, right? I mean, you'd have to almost cater your recruitment to finding people that basically all play in the same time zone, give or take, or near the same time zones, and then you're trying to organize that on a weekend or sometime after work on a weekday if they do. It's a lot that goes into that, and people should have realistic expectations on that. You're going to get people on when they're able to get on at the end of the day. As long as they're active and they're engaged, they're donating, they're participating, then at that point, from there, right, we move into the next phase, which is being able to check up on people, educate people, right? So if you are trying to go in and do PvP or you're trying to go in and do a PvE event, you should be explaining those things and educating players via mails, Discord announcements, and writing them up in concise, efficient ways, right? Don't have it be a wall of text, format it, organize it, make it look clean and professional. And then from there, you include things such as, like, if it's a PvP and you're going out and fighting, you would talk about, hey, these are Legion pairings that you guys should be looking at doing, right? If you're kind of on the higher end, if you're a little bit more budget. And then, or you could say, like if you're spending versus free to play, similar thing with artifacts, similar thing with war pets, similar thing with how you're setting up your talents. And then you talk about formations, you talk about tactics, you talk about strategy, right? We're using markers in this way. We're using emojis in this way. Pay attention to chat, right? Because if we're fighting, if we're in war, right, maybe we'll just use Alliance chat as our real-time war feed, right? So if people want to go in and have a conversation, maybe they can go into a group chat or something else. Maybe you make a specific group chat and they just try to load that one up so it's showing on their feed. And the example would be if we're fighting, here at this bridge as an example, right? I shouldn't have to toggle off, right? I should be able to toggle onto a chat here and I should just see the instructions that are being issued out in real time. So I just use that as my real-time feed, right? Albeit if you're also in, a voice call, right, with your alliance and your team. But these are things that can help new players. And then let's take it a step further, right? Then it's a matter of, you're looking, let's say you're analyzing and you're audit people based on the amount of merit points that they're getting, right? Per week, per day, per month, per season. And you find there's a number of them that don't really go out and fight that often. Okay, well, why not reach out to them and ask them what their situation is, right? Are they kind of T3 and below? Do they have T4? Do they have T5? Have they just been away? Are they on vacation? Are they just not feeling that confident in actually going out and fighting? Do they not have a lot of time availability? Sometimes just reaching out and showing that you care and that you're interested, and you're not just going to remove people, right? Like, I've seen that happen in a number of alliances. I'm curious how many of you have seen that as well, where you see people that just don't fight, and you'll have some leads that'll just be like, look, you need to show up or I'm just going to remove you. And that's not to say that everyone does that, but I've seen some situations of that happening. And that's just not the right way to go about it. I was having a conversation with the homegirl Masita yesterday, who's an artist. She plays for another alliance, and she was telling me, which was very refreshing to hear, because this is very similarly to my thought process as well, is that she would reach out to players individually in her alliance to see if there's anything she can do to help, right? Can she give you some information? Can she educate you or inform you on something? Can she help kind of guide you along a certain path, right? That's going to allow for you to contribute and engage a lot more. And she was telling me that she ends up finding that a lot of players are grateful to that. And, she noticed that, more players might have been showing up to events or showing up and fighting out in the field. And a lot of times it's just, finding a suitable way for said players to be utilized and to get the most out of where their account is currently and to get the most out of their experience. An example of this is, if you're going out and fighting in PvP, you might have players that are T3 and below focus more on farm killing, building and destroying flags, building and destroying on-field structures, turrets, etc., right, compared to fighting on the front line. You might leave that more for the T4, T5 players to do that. So that way you don't have to sit T4 and T5 players on building and destroying objectives, right? You can allow the T3 players and below to do all that. And it just frees up the people who are more of the vanguard, right, or more of the open field fighters to kind of do what they do best, right? That's a way that you can explain that in a very simple, easy instructions to a player that can allow for them to get the most out of a PvP experience, or at least just more than maybe what they've got before. And so, anyways, this is all to say that I think that there are healthy and then there's unhealthy ways on how you go about trying to get more people out to contribute in fighting, getting more players out to try and contribute in doing PvP or PvE events as well. And most of it really just comes down to just collecting information and data and having a level of care, right? Giving some TLC to the people and to the people that are in your alliances, and taking time to get to know people, taking time to understand people's situations. And once you understand people's situations, you more often will find that you can get a lot more out of them, because now you don't have these unrealistic expectations, or they maybe feel like, oh, I'm just a number on their spreadsheet, so to speak. No one's really ever reached out to me to kind of ask me about my situation or say hi. I mean, think about how often do you as a leader, how often do you as an R4, reach out to every single person in your alliance to ask them how their day's going, to catch up? I mean, probably almost no one, because I could tell you, even when I was a lead, I would do that sometimes, but most of the time it was really more of, me checking in and trying to see, how I could help, if it was something in-game related, if it was me taking a tally, if it was me finding out their availability, if it was me, seeing if they needed any assistance, right? But it was kind of more obviously related to in-game. I'll admit, right, even someone like myself doesn't do it that often. It just takes a lot of time, out of my day, even if, some of my R4s may have done that. And I'm not saying that everyone has to do that. I'm just giving a very extreme example on that. There's a difference between, leaders and management teams that, really want to go above and beyond and apply some due diligence. And it goes right back to what, our homeboy Manda was saying that I covered in the video yesterday about how, there's a lot of leaders that are just lazy as fudge sickles. And it's just the truth. And that could be leaders as much as the management teams for the alliances that you work in. How close are you to your people? Are you really, truly trying to build a community within your alliance, or is it just kind of more of a means to an end, right? It's just, hey, this is what it is. We're just going to, see how long we can let this adventure ride, until it, not surpasses, but until it kind of fulfills its time or, finishes its time out, compared to, again, those that, really want to get to know their people. And I think all of these things really just culminate right back into and factor very heavily as well, and kind of a side note here, into player drop-off, right? If you think about how many players, like if you think about alliances themselves, and I'll probably touch on this in a separate video, but I'll leave you with this as my last little pro thing, is that alliances themselves are arguably directly connected to whether a game will be successful or not. Because let's say if every single alliance in the game that any player ever joined were just absolute a-holes to people, do you think a lot of players are going to want to be playing that game? No, because it's going to quickly get to find a reputation of being toxic. If alliance leaders and management teams are welcoming, if they're embracing, if they're helpful and educational, do you think you're going to have more players that are more willing and more likely to continue playing that game and even maybe recommend it to other people? Yeah. Does that potentially make the developer more money? Yes, it does. So it is somewhat fascinating, right? And bear in mind, there's no like school, there's no education, there's no test you have to pass or certificate you have to go in and get as it pertains to becoming an alliance leader or to becoming a manager. Again, I have a guide out there on how to be an alliance leader, on how to be an alliance officer, and how to be a contributing member. I think those are the standard right now in the Kingdom Builder genre for how to do those things in these types of games. I think that they're just very well done, if I can humbly and speak on that, for the quality and the production I put into those, or I should say quality of information overall and resources that I've talked about. But it is one of those things that when you think about it, in reality, there is no test for going out and doing it. So you could have anyone. You could have someone who's 12 years old running an alliance. You could have someone who's 77 running an alliance. You could have someone who's from any part in the world, right? Male, female, different backgrounds, different political beliefs, and any of these people could be running an alliance, right? And you don't know where they're at. You don't know what their knowledge and their experience level is in leading an alliance, let alone officers that are coming in as well, outside of course, what they may or may not tell you. And it is very interesting how, when I look at kingdom builders in that regard, it's like the Wild West out there when it comes to people who are becoming alliance leads, because you don't know. You don't know how good or not good they're going to be, right? And that's a very just simple, watered down way of putting it. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I want to pass this question off to you, and I want to hear this. If you have been in an alliance, I would love for you to tell us what are some things that alliance did, whether it was the lead and or officers, that made it so you felt the need or the want to go out there and participate in fighting or in PvE events. Were they doing certain things that maybe, like, let's say if you were someone who didn't participate that much, or maybe you were participating a little bit, did they do anything that made you go and participate or participate more? Or on the flip side, were there things the alliances did, or that alliance did, that made you not want to go out and participate in PvE and PvP events, whether that's lowering your participation or just stopping it altogether? And I'd be curious to hear, because I think that would be very informative and very helpful to community members out there. So let us know in the comments below. That's going to be it for me. As always, until next time, I will catch you later.